Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about Bo Burnham and his incredible statement recently and what it means for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Masters and Dungeon players. Alright, so let me explain who Bo Burnham is. Bo Burnham is probably I think he very well may be the second most important U.S. American comedian in the world. All right, so the number one comedian in the U.S. The number one comedian, actually, let's not pretend. If you're an American comedian and you're at the top of the game, you're at the top of the world. But it's like, who's the most famous French comedian? I don't know. I don't know if I can name a French comedian, right? So, yeah. So and the reason why is U.S. We are getting more international. I just watched Phil Wang. He's fantastic. So we are getting more international. And actually, I think Phil Wang might be American. He did say he's Chinese, but that doesn't mean he's not American Chinese. Let me stay focused. All right, Bo Burnham is the second most important comedian in the world today. All right, first is Chappelle. Chappelle has changed the game. He's done things that, it would take a list of things for me to just explain how much he's changed the entire. He's just changed the entire game of comedy, right? Like what it pays, how you manage it, how a career scales, how you address politics, how you just a million things. Half the comedians today follow him, right? Not follow him on Twitter, but follow literally in his steps, just trying to achieve a fraction of what he's already achieved. Now, Bo Burnham is a millennial, okay? I don't think he's a Gen Z. I think he's a millennial, and he's a genius. That is not debatable. Bo Burnham is a genius. Frankly, I think most successful stand-up comedians are geniuses. It's hard to get people to laugh, and it's not an easy thing. It takes a lot of courage, and so with that said, Bo Burnham is a genius. No two ways about it. Right? But he's also a millennial, right? And so one of the issues with millennials now is, in the old days, if you had a mental health issue, you just kept going, right? That's if something was stopping you from performing, you just powered through it. That was the old way. But millennials are like, nah, we don't want to do that. Let's figure out ways where we can balance our mental health, balance our physical health, and balance our performance, what we need to do to perform in the world, right? And so Bo Burnham is on the cutting edge of this. He just completed a new piece called "Make Happy," right? And he said something that was absolutely astounding in this comedy special, and it affects us on the Dungeons and Dragons end. All right, so let me tell you what he said, and then I'll explain where it connects to Dungeons and Dragons. So here's what he said. He said, "I have lived a privileged life." It was 3 sentences. I have lived a privileged life, and I got lucky, and I'm unhappy, right? Actually, I guess that's all one sentence. All right, sorry. So, in one sentence, he said, I have lived a privileged life, and I got lucky, and I'm unhappy. And it hit me like a hammer. It hit me like somebody hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. It just stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, and the reason why was I was like, that's Hollywood. That's every Hollywood exec except for one or two. At the macro level, that is Hollywood. Privileged people who got lucky, and it's not enough. They want more. They're not happy. They desire more. There's this cloying, I deserve more than to have lived a privileged life and to have gotten lucky. I deserve more, right? And I was like, holy crap! That is incredible. It just summarized the macro level of Hollywood in one sentence, right? And this is and why does this matter for D&D? Well, D&D is tied with an iron chain to Dungeons and Dragons is tied to an iron chain to Hollywood, right? The coastal elites who designed Dungeons and Dragons follow the Hollywood playbook 100%. They never deviate, right? Of course, Wizards of the Coast is super pro environmentalists. Of course, you know, um, of course, gender and identity and all these other, every single Hollywood stance is going to be in your Dungeons and Dragons books 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later. Okay, right, and maybe even faster than that. Right. So what does that mean for us? Right. Well, I think the biggest thing that that we do have to recognize is, I think Gary Gygax had true, distinct values. He had beliefs. He had stances, right? And we just have to understand that Dungeons and Dragons does not have those things today, right? They don't have freestanding opinions when it comes to politics, when it comes to culture, when it comes to a wide array of issues. Dungeons and Dragons design team does not make up their own mind. They come straight from Hollywood, right? And I am so tempted, like the rest of everybody else, to just go, oh, I'm so frustrated with with Dungeons and Dragons because they're just Hollywood, and I already know the direction they're going to go. I would really love the game to choose this direction or that direction, but I know it can't because it's not free. It's chained to Hollywood values, right? So, but I can't do that, and the reason why is Dungeons and Dragons is what matters. These other indie games don't matter, right? So we have to understand our true state in order to maneuver within the Dungeons and Dragons community, right? So one of the things is, we know that Hollywood values are going to show up, right? But we still need to be within the community to put breaks where breaks are needed. Not all breaks are needed, right? Like, here's a good one: Hollywood value. Animals should not be harmed, right? That's a very Hollywood value. It's one of their most growing, preeminent values now, right? And I totally 100% agree with that. I also agree that gender and race and identity and preferences should be reflected, right? However, there are times where there's a limit. Like, one of the things I'm not for, right, here's a perfect example, right? When you are bringing forward people who have been in the minority before, that doesn't mean that you take the people who are in the majority and treat them with disrespect. And I don't think Hollywood signed on for that right now. They're like, minorities up, and the majority, who used to be in power, who used to have respect, they go down, right? I'm like, no, I don't think that's the case, right? We're all people. We all need to be treated with kindness and tolerance. And if we had a lot before, that doesn't mean we get punished for it now. Now, I'm careful when I say we. I'm actually a minority. I'm not in the majority, right? Like, I'm not a white person, right? So, so basically, it is really fascinating where we're ending up. And so I think it is critical to understand that Bo Burnham fully captured Hollywood, right? And has said in a single sentence the reality of the problem we currently have, which is we have to deal with this Dungeons and Dragons issue, in that the values that are going to come through on Dungeons and Dragons are from people who are privileged, have gotten lucky, and that was not enough for them. They're still unhappy, right? And so we need to understand that is the source of the heart of most of the cultural and political points that will come through in Dungeons and Dragons. So we need to process that. We need to understand it, and then we need to understand that so we can maneuver within the D&D community. All that is my opinion. What do you think? Do you think that is what we need to understand? And how do we maneuver now that we understand it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.